The locations today. Here's Fox's Madison Scarpino.
These protesters are a part of the so-called Tesla takedown, and the group is calling today a global day of action against the car maker. According to the Tesla takedown website, the group wants people to, quote, sell your Teslas, dump your stock, and join the picket lines. They're protesting Musk's role in Doge. He spearheaded severing government agencies, but Musk says this is an effort to expose waste, fraud, and abuse in the federal government. There have been plenty Tesla protests leading up to today. The Tesla takedown group wants these protests to be peaceful and say it opposes any violence or destruction of property.
Before today, 3 people were charged with setting fire to Tesla vehicles and charging stations. The White House calls it domestic terrorism. Vice President J.D. Vance has returned from a quick visit to U.S. military base in Greenland. This as President Trump wants to acquire the Danish territory to defend the Arctic region. Here's Fox's Madeline Rivera.
Vice President J.D. Vance says he respects Greenland's self-determination, but he also says the U.S. will do a much better job of protecting this semi-autonomous territory than Denmark.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland. You have underinvested in the people of Greenland, and you have underinvested in the security architecture of this incredible, beautiful landmass filled with incredible people. We hope that they choose to partner with the United States because we're the only nation on earth that will respect their sovereignty.
Vance framed the importance of Greenland as a matter of national security.
Trump says Russia and China are also interested in Greenland. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
With new tariffs at the
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
What you'll want to be on the lookout for. I'm Jake McDaniel. Here's what's trending this hour. Expect it all. Forecasters say storms may happen on Sunday. Ryan Hedrick has the details.
Sunday afternoon, you'll notice a change as a cold front moves in.
Say after 2 o'clock into the evening hours through about 8, 9 p.m.
And then when the storm gets here, says Jason Puma at the National Weather Service, it'll bring...
It will be straight line winds, large hail, but we can't rule out isolated tornadoes at this point either.
And Puma says from now until then, rain off and on. Brian Hedrick, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
A truck which carried over 120 cows tipped over on I-65 in northwest Indiana early Friday before 8 o'clock.
As a result of the crash, one cow did die from injuries as a result of the crash. A second cow had to be euthanized, and 2 other cows were injured, but they were able to be transported back to the farm that they came from.
Indiana State Police Sergeant Glenn Fifield says the rest of the cows were escorted to another truck as well. Indiana Senator Todd Young says he still has confidence in National Security Advisor Mike Waltz despite the Signal app incident.
I do trust his national security team, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz in particular. He offers strong counsel to the president, and I think he's well served by his counsel to focus on terrorists.
He tells Wish TV's All Indiana Politics the future of Waltz's job in the administration should be up to President Trump. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com, here's your forecast from the American Standard Heating Weather Center.
Some storms move into the forecast, unlikely for those to be severe, but severe weather could come our way Sunday, especially in the afternoon, evening hours, so we'll keep an eye on that moving into the weekend. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Jennifer Sutis for 93 WIBC.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating. Family owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. A couple of good news points right off the bat in terms of technology here. We had the YouTube feed down last week, and we're just having some technology issues. And producer Jack has gotten all that all resolved and working closely with our IT folks here at WIBC. And so the YouTube feed is up. At least I think it's supposed to be. I don't see a picture yet, but I guess we'll be cautiously optimistic on that. And WIBC was having phone problems earlier in the week, and that appears to be resolved as well. So hopefully, if you want to call, join the discussion, as we always invite our listeners to do, you can call and join the discussion at 317-239-9393. We have a short show tonight. We're ending at 6. WIBC, as it has done for generations, is covering the state basketball tournament, IHSAA. A lot of people love listening to that on the radio. I'm a big fan of that as well. So as much as I had 2 hours of stuff to talk about today, hey, I know people love listening to Indiana high school basketball here on 93 WIBC. So that's cool too, and that's exciting. And I welcome you to stick around for that broadcast. As I reported last week, the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act is the name of it. A bill in Congress, in D.C., got a hearing in the Judiciary Committee just this last Tuesday. And the good news is, not only did it get a hearing, but it passed successfully out of that committee, which means it is now ripe for a vote on the floor of the House in Congress. And this is a big deal. And it's an interesting name. We've seen national reciprocity bills introduced in Congress several times before for several years. In fact, we had one pass the House during Trump's first 2 years in office from 2016 to 2018, and it never got a vote in the Senate. Probably because Senate leadership, Mitch McConnell at the time, didn't believe they had the 60 votes to bring it to the floor and get it passed. At least that's the speculation. I would have liked to have at least seen it attempted, but that didn't happen back then. But we've seen other iterations of the same bill brought in the years between then. And what are we talking about when we're talking about concealed carry reciprocity? And I've talked about this many times before, and I don't want to just repeat previous conversations, but this would allow you, I mean, for the most part, the concept is if you have a license to carry, or in some states they call it a concealed carry permit. Here in Indiana, the correct term is a license to carry handgun. Don't call it a concealed carry permit because it doesn't require you to conceal anything. You can open carry with a license to carry. You can conceal carry. And I'll talk about constitutional carry here in just a minute, but the idea behind national reciprocity is that if you have a permit or a license, as we have here in Indiana, to carry in your home state, national reciprocity would say that every other state has to recognize your ability to carry in that state. So I have a license to carry here in Indiana. I have a lifetime license like many, many people do. In fact, we're now over 1 million people in Indiana that have been issued a license. You know, Indiana is the #1 state in terms of the percentage per capita of people that have a license to carry handgun. Not in total numbers, but in terms of percentage per capita, Indiana's #1. How cool is that? And if you're a criminal in Indiana, don't you have to think twice about selecting a victim, especially if you're a street criminal, knowing that well over 1 million people here in Indiana have a license to carry a handgun, and many of us choose to exercise that right, use that license. But if you're one of the 1 million plus people now that have a license to carry in Indiana, then national reciprocity would mean every other state, the 49 other states, including those states like, yes, New York, California, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maryland, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, those states that hate your Second Amendment rights, that absolutely despise you for even wanting to exercise your Second Amendment rights, they would be required to recognize your license and allow you to carry your handgun in those states. Now, I don't expect any of those states to go along in any way other than kicking and screaming. And I think they'll still look for some excuse to try to arrest people that are carrying handguns in their states if this were to pass. But this particular version of national reciprocity that just passed out of committee, and if you want to look it up, it's H.R. 38. It's House Bill 38 in Congress. And it's actually the Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act. Well, the word constitutional is in there. What does that mean? Does that make a difference? Well, it does make a difference because this version of the bill is a little different than what we've seen in years past, because it says that if you live in a constitutional carry state, meaning your state has passed permitless carry, the law that we have here in Indiana that, gosh, I fought for 10 years, and we finally got passed in 2022, that says if you're a law-abiding citizen, if you're not prohibited from possessing a firearm by state or federal law, then you can carry a handgun in Indiana without a license. This version of national reciprocity says if you live in a constitutional carry state, or if you have a license to carry, a permit to carry in your home state, then you can carry in every other state. You don't even need a license to carry in all 50 states if you live in a constitutional carry state. Now, I'm sorry, that's good legislation. That's pretty damn cool. And how many states are we talking about? 29 states now have constitutional carry. That is, you can carry a handgun if you're a law-abiding citizen, not prohibited by state or federal law from possessing a firearm. You can carry without a license. 29 states. And the North Carolina Senate just passed their own version in North Carolina of constitutional carry. So assuming it gets through whatever committee process they have and gets passed in the House in North Carolina, you're going to have 30 states. How about that? 60%. I'm not good at math. I went to law school because there's no math involved. But I'm pretty sure 30 is 60% of 50. And how cool is that? The 60% of the states in this country. And why do more and more states? Indiana was, gosh, there's somebody out there that'll correct me on this. I want to say we were the 23rd, 24th state, something like that. It was low 20s. And man, I had all these statistics, and we were fighting for this in the legislature back in, like I say, for 10 years, leading up to getting it passed in the spring of 2022. But that many states now, and while we were fighting for it back in that time frame, what did we hear over and over and over again? Oh, this is going to turn your state into the Wild West. There's going to be blood on the streets. We had to fight against all the law enforcement people that came in. Now, there's this idea that law enforcement was this monolithic block against constitutional carry, and every law enforcement officer out there opposed it, and that is fundamentally untrue. That is a lie. A lot of leadership in a lot of political appointees, like, say, the police chief in Indianapolis, and police chiefs in other cities, South Bend, Fort Wayne, others that came in and testified against it. A lot of political appointees, people that owed their job to a mayor or a city council, came in and testified against it. But we had constitutionally elected sheriffs, several, including my friend, and I'm a huge fan of Dennis Quakenbush in Hamilton County, who came in and testified for it. And we had several other law enforcement officers. We had current and former state police officers come in and testify for it. My friend Tammy Watson came in and testified for it as a former state police trooper. And so a lot of law enforcement officers testified for it. But this idea that that law enforcement was going to be jeopardized, and we heard from law enforcement officials that I respect, who said, oh, my officers in my department are going to be at risk because this passes. And has that come to pass? Has that actually occurred? Well, murders are down in Indiana. Murders are down in Indianapolis. We had all the the leadership, especially the political appointees of IMPD, came in and said, oh my God, there's going to be blood in the streets. What's happened in Indianapolis since constitutional carry has passed? Murders have been down every year. Now, justified homicides are up. What's that tell you? Isn't that interesting? I talked about this with Rick Snyder here on the show. Rick Snyder, president of FOP, the Fraternal Order of Police, District 86, that covers right here in central Indiana. I said, justified homicides, meaning people lawfully defending themselves, are up. Overall homicides and criminal homicides are down. So all this goes to the arguments going on in D.C. right now relating to this bill, H.R. 38, that passed out of the Judiciary Committee on Tuesday, because within the Judiciary Committee hearing itself, and this was hilarious. I posted this. You want to see the video, go to my Twitter. Give me a follow while you're on there. It's at Guy Relford on X, formerly known as Twitter. But I posted this video because we had one idiot representative, I want to say Goldman, who said, well, if we pass this, people are going to be more in jeopardy. People are going to be unsafe because of these quote unquote licensed carriers that are now going to be able to carry their guns in every state. And Representative Riley, who's a rock star, went right at him and said, what data do you have that says that concealed carriers, because that's who we're talking about. We're talking about licensed concealed carriers or people that can lawfully carry guns in constitutional carry states. What data do you have that they actually commit crimes more than the general population? And, of course, the answer was, well, I don't have that data in front of me right now. Well, no, of course you don't, because the data is completely inconsistent with anything you have to say. In fact, the Crime Prevention Research Center, founded and led by one Dr. John R. Lott, Jr., good friend of mine, friend of the show, has been a guest on the show here several times, has posted statistics for the frequency with which people with a license to carry handgun, and that's the population of people we're talking about, under national reciprocity. Plus, under this version of the bill, people that lawfully carry in their home states under constitutional carry, but the population of people with a license to carry handgun commit crimes at an incredibly smaller fraction per capita than the general population. And even looking at specific states, and I posted the link to this study, and the study's getting a little age on it. It's 2019, but I have no reason to think these data wouldn't be accurate for today as well, that licensed handgun carriers actually commit crimes at a rate dramatically lower than police officers do. And that's not a shot at police officers. If you listen to the Gun Guy Show, you know we support law enforcement here on this show. I do specifically. I've defended multiple police officers in civil and criminal proceedings. But it goes to show, if people say, well, I don't want all these lunatics, just because they have a license in their home state running around in my state, that'll increase crime. What basis do you have statistically to make that claim, to make that argument? It doesn't exist. And that came clearly out of the Judiciary Committee this last Tuesday. That's why constitutional concealed carry reciprocity passed out of that committee, and that's why it can and should get a vote on the floor of the House. Now, when it goes over to the Senate, what are the prospects for getting national reciprocity coming out of the Senate? That's a little different discussion because of the threshold required to call a vote on a bill in the Senate. That's what we'll talk about when we come back. In the meantime, join the discussion. Give us a call. I have every reason to believe our phones are working, even though our camera on YouTube does not appear to be. But the chat is. I see people going back and forth on the chat on YouTube, so you're certainly willing and able to participate in that if you'd like to. But give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Matt Bear knows how to break the traffic press.
I-70 is packed tight. There's a blue Chevy trying to drive the lane, but it's facing tough D from the semi.
Matt Bear sees the openings, finds the best routes, and keeps you moving.
Watch out. 465 Construction is using a wicked zone with cones blocking the right side, forcing everyone into the middle.
Matt Bear traffic.
Complete gridlock in the paint.
Navigating traffic madness.
Fast break on I-69. Hit the gas.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class, as I always say, is our Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. And next one is coming up Saturday, May 10th. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. This one's going to be at Indy Arms, as we often are. They're on the northeast side of Indianapolis, very convenient, located at 2550 East 55th Street, just a block off of Keystone. They're on 55th. Beautiful, new indoor range. My favorite place to shoot indoors, and they have a great, big, large, comfortable classroom, and that's exactly where we're teaching Essentials of Indiana Gun Law, a detailed discussion of the law of self-defense in Indiana, including the justified use of deadly force in self-defense, how to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like pointing a firearm, which is a crime in Indiana, intimidation with a deadly weapon, criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon. I've defended a whole lot of each of those cases, those charges, and that's exactly what you need to avoid if you're carrying a gun, if you own a gun in Indiana. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through May 4th, new customers can get started with 300 megabit internet and Security Edge for $69 a month for 24 months. And ask how to get free installation on qualifying bundles. Plus, find out how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra. After 24 months, regular rates apply.
For the deal that can't be beat, you got to get over to Andy Moore Ford. Start the spring strong with a new Andy Moore Ford. You can elevate that journey of yours with a new 2024 Ford Expedition Platinum. You could save over $15,000 off MSRP. The high-output 3.5-liter EcoBoost, up to 400 horsepower, commanding performance. I'm driving one. It's fantastic. And if you need something just a little smaller but could still do all the hauling, the new 2024 Ford Edge SE. Save over $6,000 $6,500 off MSRP and get more to your door. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver directly to you. Andy Moore Ford has got the entire selection. And if you're looking to sell or trade your current vehicle, Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy theirs. Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford. That's MOHR. AndyMooreFord.com.
Military veterans and active duty service members, you could become a certified cyber warrior with just 12 weeks of training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, and IT pros with these skills often enjoy abundant opportunity and a great lifestyle. Protect our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. That's mycomputercareer.edu/CWP.
It's your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu together for just $2.99 a month.
Definitely a very smart move.
Get both and watch Star Wars Andor Season 2 and Mufasa the Lion King on Disney Plus.
There's a lot of stories with all of us.
On Hulu, it's the new season of The Handmaid's Tale and A Complete Unknown.
Give a warm welcome to Bob Dylan.
Don't miss your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu together for just $2.99 a month for 4 months. New and returning subscribers, 18 plus only. After 4 months, plan auto renews at $10.99 a month until canceled. Offer ends 3/30/25. Terms apply.
PA Jewelers at the Farmhouse is now open. The same exceptional pricing, but with expanded selection. The Farmhouse. Built in 1888, the Farmhouse is now your place to find or create that special piece of jewelry. Gold, diamonds, gemstones, the watches. Oh, what a collection. All there at PA Jewelers at the Farmhouse. Now open. Check it out for yourself on Green Street. PA Jewelers at the Farmhouse. Online at pajewelers.jewelry. That's pajewelers.jewelry.
Indy Humane, committed to helping Central Indiana's pets in need since 1905. Find your new best friend today. IndyHumane.org.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to a short version of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC today. IHSAA basketball tournament action coming up at 6 o'clock. And listen, I have certainly 2 hours of stuff to talk about, as I always do, that and more. But hey, I love listening to high school basketball. It's up there. I'll tell you, nothing beats on WIBC the Indy 500 coverage. That I've been listening to that since I was a little kid, and that goes way back. We're talking about many decades, and they just do such a fabulous job with that. But I'll tell you what, high school basketball is right up there, and it's a lot of fun to listen to on the radio. And we hope you stick around for that as we conclude the Gun Guy Show at the top of the hour. But talking about the bill, it's the National Concealed Carry, this is a big difference, Constitutional Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act, because it would include the ability to carry a handgun in all 50 states if you live in a state, currently 29 states having passed constitutional carry. If you live in one of those 29 states, and North Carolina appears to be on the verge of being the 30th, you could carry in all 50 states. Now, very important point. And listen, I think this is going to get a vote on the floor of the House. I think it'll pass the House. What do I think about the prospects in the Senate? Well, listen, it's easy to say, and I have to agree, the odds are against it in the Senate because of the 60-vote threshold you have to get passed in the Senate to get any bill, any non-budget bill, any general bill, certainly something related to the criminal code like this, to get that called to a vote, you have to get 60 votes to end debate or end the filibuster, quote unquote, and call the bill to a vote on the floor of the Senate. And so it essentially requires 60 votes. And I've talked about this many times, which is, listen, that 60-vote threshold, it can be your biggest enemy. It can be your biggest friend. Under the Obama administration, I'll guarantee you, we would have universal background checks, quote unquote, and probably an assault weapon ban quote unquote, if not for the 60 vote threshold during the Obama administration. The assault weapon ban was certainly more tenuous and slightly more unlikely, but I don't think there's any question we'd have universal background checks. And whenever anybody wants to ask me about universal background checks, well, Guy, why would you want bad people to buy guns? Why would you oppose universal background checks? Why, if you can pass the background checks, why would you have a problem with that? Because universal background checks are completely unenforceable without universal registration. In other words, there's no way for the government to determine who bought a gun with or without a background check unless you know who owns every gun in America today. I get caught with a gun. Well, what are you doing with that gun? I own the gun. Well, did you buy it with a background check? I'm not saying. Well, how does the government prove how I acquired that gun if I didn't buy it from a federal firearms licensee? And that's all irrelevant to universal background checks. Universal background checks go to transactions between private individuals. That's what that's all about. So if I bought the gun from a private individual, how does the government prove that I bought that gun with or without a background check unless they know who owned the gun before me? And you can't know that without universal registration. And do I trust the government of this country? Because, by the way, the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986 currently prevents the federal government from maintaining any database of gun owners or guns on a national basis other than NFA-regulated firearms. What's NFA? If you listen to the Gun Guy show, you know the answer to that question. It's machine guns and short-barreled rifles, suppressors, short-barreled shotguns, etc. But other than NFA items, the federal government, through the Federal Firearm Owners Protection Act 1986, is actually precluded from maintaining any database of firearms. So how do you have a national, or even at the state level, how do you have universal background checks without universal registration? And the question then becomes, do I trust the federal government or my state government or any other governmental entity with a database listing every gun and every gun owner in America? No, I do not. And you know who else clearly didn't trust the federal government, at least in this context, with a database of gun owners? Congress. Congress didn't trust the federal government with a database of gun owners because they precluded it, they prohibited it by passing the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. Now, there's a lot more in FOPA, as we call it, than just that, but that's included. So if Congress doesn't trust the damn federal government, I sure as hell have a reason to not trust them myself. And in those states that have required registration, like in those states that have required, we'll let you keep your so-called assault weapon, but you need to register it. Just, come in and tell us about the rifle you own and register it with us, and all will be well. And here I'm talking about Connecticut, Maryland. And that same population of people, first of all, some people tried to register them, but too late. They got letters saying, well, you now own contraband, you now own an illegal rifle, you need to take it out of the state, destroy it, surrender it, or else you're going to prison. Other people, even that did register them, got emails saying, well, we've changed the law now, and you're going to have to give up your rifle. Do I trust the government with a list of firearms that I own? Absolutely not. Now, and we'll talk about this after the break, what does the government already know about the guns that I own? There's a lot of misinformation and a lot of bad information. I got into this discussion on social media today. People were saying, oh, the ATF already knows everything you own. Well, do they? Do they? That's an interesting discussion. We'll go into that when we come back. Right now, we're taking a break. Join the discussion. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WYBC.
Another update is just minutes away.
Pushing back on the Signal group chat controversy.
I think it's a witch hunt.
Journalist was mistakenly invited into that chat. Democrats want a full investigation.
Hear the news.
25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States.
Starting April 3rd.
As events happen.
Rain and wind and even tornadoes could happen on Sunday.
The pattern certainly supports it.
We'll happen to be there.
I-70 construction in Hancock County.
Resurfacing.
20-mile stretch without an exit.
93 WIPC Mobile News.
Heard about Galaxy Concrete Coatings and their transformation? Your neighbor Chip did.
I'm a real car guy, and I have a garage that I got tired of fighting the epoxy fight. Finally, I saw something on Facebook, and I got interested in Galaxy. Looked like a real good solution to me.
Homer business, Galaxy's got you covered.
My house is on a post-tension slab. It can get cracked, so what these guys did was they came in and they grooved out all those little cracks. And now it's one complete lovely surface, very pleasant on the eyes.
Transforms pools, patios, garage floors, driveways, and more. And Galaxy Concrete Coatings comes with a lifetime warranty.
You can just tell by looking at it, it's going to be impervious to anything I can throw at it for as long as I can imagine. And I haven't looked back since. I love it.
Click on Galaxy Concrete Coatings today. And remember to like us on Facebook. Galaxy Concrete Coatings, we are out of this world.
Denny Smith here for Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden. Nursery stock is arriving daily at both locations are filling up. Come shop early and save. 20% off all container trees and shrubs in stock now at both Sundown Gardens in Westfield and Miss M's Home and Garden in Bargersville. Their gift shops are full of spring color. Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. Miss M's Home and Garden on State Road 135 just south of Whiteland Road in Bargersville. Stop in and see them this week.
It's your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu together for just $2.99 a month.
Definitely a very smart move.
Get both and watch Star Wars Andor Season 2 and Mufasa the Lion King on Disney Plus.
There's a lot of stories with all of us.
On Hulu, it's the new season of The Handmaid's Tale and A Complete Unknown.
Give a warm welcome to Bob Dylan.
Don't miss your last chance to get Disney Plus and Hulu together for just $2.99 a month for 4 months. New and returning subscribers, 18 plus only. After 4 months, plan auto renews at $10.99 a month until canceled. Offer ends 3/30/25. Terms apply.
Fox News, I'm Jane Fergus. Protests erupting today at Tesla dealerships across the U.S. Elon Musk and Doge say they're rooting out waste in the federal government, but this demonstrator in Columbus, Ohio, not buying it.
I mean, who is this guy? The world's richest guy comes in and just starts taking a wrecking ball to our government? No way.
Tesla locations in New York, Maryland, and Texas all seeing protests. The top Food and Drug Administration vaccine official, Dr. Peter Marks, is resigning.
Dr. Marks saying in that letter obtained by the Associated Press that he was willing to work, quote unquote, to address concerns expressed by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. about the safety of vaccines, but concluded that was not possible.
That's Fox's Paul Stevens reporting. America's listening to Fox News.
This is the most exciting time of the year, and we want you to go all the way, even if your team doesn't. March on, Indiana, in a Hubler quality pre-owned vehicle. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations and choose from over 2,000 vehicles, including Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, plus a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. Hubler's got you covered. Busted brackets not included. For over 2,000 vehicles, visit drivehubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Hubler's got you covered. Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash, and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother got life insurance from Ethos, and it only took 10 minutes. And he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online, no medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit ethos.com/score. Ethos.com/score.
Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, we've had a couple of people call in. Let's go to the phone lines. And Steve has called in. Steve, welcome to The Gun Guy Show.
Hey, good afternoon, Guy.
And to you, sir.
I have a question about I'm not sure if it's passed yet. I haven't paid attention yesterday or today, but Colorado is proposing a very strict gun control laws.
Yeah, Colorado's off the rails on the Second Amendment, and they have been for a while. I mean, that state's gone seriously blue. And, yeah, I saw the things they just passed. Just for your information, I think there are 3 different bills that are on the governor's desk out there right now.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I didn't know if he had signed it yet.
Okay. Gotcha.
My question is, and I haven't read it completely, but I've read online, comments online from people that a lot of people were saying we'll just go to Montana to buy a gun. And people in the comment section were firing back saying that they wouldn't be allowed to. So my question is, how can a state create a law that affects another state as far as guns go?
Well, that's a good question. They can't. But the problem is, generally speaking, you can't have a transfer of firearms between residents of different states. So, in other words, if I drove, and there's some exceptions for this for long guns, as between contiguous states. So there are some exceptions. But for the most part, if I don't have an Indiana driver's license, for instance, or Indiana government-issued ID, then I can't buy a gun in Indiana. So I'm sure that's what the people are talking about. But there are certain exceptions for long guns as between contiguous states. So that may be what people are talking about driving from Colorado to Montana. And really what we're talking about here, we're talking about new restrictions in Colorado on semi-automatic rifles. So what are they doing? This is their version of an additional so-called assault weapon ban. And it's got more permutations to that. There's a training requirement. There's a registration requirement. There's a bunch of other crap they've built into it. But that's Colorado. And to be honest with you, Steve, I try to, I'm on all the feeds. I read the stuff going on in other states. But I got to tell you, it's enough for me to keep up with what's going on in Indiana, as well as the federal law that affects us here in Indiana. So I don't profess to be an expert on what's going on necessarily in other states. But let's go back to the phone lines, and I think it's Anthony has called with a question or a comment. Anthony, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And to you, sir.
Yes, I'm calling for a friend of mine who is terrified right now because of what happened with the Supreme Court and the decision that was handed down with regard to the Administrative Procedures Act and homemade firearms.
What we're calling the Vanderstock case. It's Bondi versus Vanderstock that deals with quote-unquote ghost guns. But, yeah, what's your question?
Yeah, he made a number of 80% lowers for AR-15 platforms in various calibers, and now he's terrified the ATF's going to show up and bash his door down, throw in hand grenades, and haul him away. And I told him, hey, don't sweat the small stuff, because I think that really only affects the people manufacturing and selling the lowers.
Yeah, and listen, that's what I was going to talk about in the last segment today, Anthony, but I'm glad to get into it now, and thanks for calling. But what the Supreme Court ruled, and this is Bondi versus Vanderstock, if you want to look up the opinion, and it has to do with selling incomplete gun parts, including incomplete lowers or receivers or frames that can be used to build a firearm, and as well as gun kits. And there are a lot of people out there, people, manufacturers that are selling these kits that aren't complete. So you have to buy the kit, you put it together, and you build your own firearm. And the ATF has said, federal law has said for generations, that you can build your own firearm at home. And that these kits, to the extent they didn't include a complete lower receiver for an AR, for instance, because the ATF has taken the position it's the lower receiver that qualifies as the part of a firearm that has to be serialized and sold with a background check. But if it's not a complete lower, meaning there's some additional work you have to do on it, you've heard this term 80% lower. It's been around there forever, meaning it's only 80% complete. So you need to drill this out and machine this, and you finish the lower. Well, if you do that yourself, you're essentially building the firearm yourself, and that part didn't need to be serialized. You didn't have to pass a background check to buy it. And then you can also buy, as part of the same kit, the rest of the components to build that firearm. And as to unfinished frames and receivers, and as to these kits, what the Supreme Court said is that at least some of them, didn't rule as to all of them, it said at least some of them are complete enough and close enough to a finished firearm that they qualify as firearms or receivers, because federal law says you can't sell firearms or the receiver of firearms. The framer receiver is actually the term, without being a federal firearms licensee and without requiring a background check. And there's prohibitions against selling them to prohibited possessors, meaning people that can't buy a gun under state and federal law. So what the Supreme Court said is at least some, and it didn't mention anyone in particular, except it mentioned this one kit called a buy, build, shoot kit. And said, look, there it is. Buy, build, shoot. And the Supreme Court, in a decision written by Gorsuch, by the way, Justice Gorsuch, who's a strong 2A proponent, he said, listen, with as little as 20 minutes of work, you can assemble your own firearm and have a gun that's fully working, and you can buy these without background checks, and people can sell them without being federal firearms licensees. And we don't think that's okay. There's been an explosion of, this is the term from the Supreme Court, of crimes committed with these guns. They said in 2000, let me get the dates right. This is from memory, but it was right in the decision, which I just read because it just came out late this week. I said from 2017, there were 1,600 unserialized firearms, meaning firearms that were constructed by a private individual, recovered at crime scenes, 1,600. And by 2021, there were 19,000. So the Supreme Court, and I did an extensive interview with Tony Katz on this. You can look up that podcast. It's on my social media, at Guy Relford on Twitter or X. Give me a follow while you're on there. I'm trying to build that following. But I said, I think this court was very result-oriented, and it said, look, if we had 1,600 4 years before and 19,000 4 years later, that's something that we need the ATF to be able to regulate. So it just said, as to some kits and as to some frames and receivers, and they didn't spell out, certainly this buy, build, shoot kit, they used it as an example anyway. Otherwise, they said at least some pass the test of being firearms or frames and receivers, so we're leaving it open as to which ones do and don't. But that has to do with currently selling them. You have to be an FFL, Federal Firearms Licensee, meaning a licensed gun seller, and you have to pass a background check to get one. Going back to Anthony's question, should his friend be concerned? Absolutely not, because it doesn't affect people that already have them, that have already constructed their firearms, or someone who sold them in the past as a non-FFL. It just has to do with going forward, what has to be serialized, who can sell them, and who can buy them. So if I had a gun that I finished myself with an 80% lower, for instance, and built that gun from there on up and had that at home, I wouldn't be a bit concerned because this ruling doesn't affect them. It's not relevant to them. I wouldn't be a bit concerned about it. And with that, we're taking a break. We'll be back for the last segment of the shortened version of the Gun Guy Show due to IHSAA basketball coming up. Exciting stuff, man. This is Indiana. You can't be mad about listening to high school basketball on the radio. So we'll be right back with the last segment of this night's The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Life moves fast.
Another new directive from Donald Trump.
President Trump will not be deterred to make our federal government more efficient.
So does the news.
We expect those meetings to take place very soon.
Decisions made today.
I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic.
No threats to national security.
Could impact you tomorrow.
Accountability and transparency.
What's next?
You never know what's going to happen.
Need to know what happened.
We're already tracking it. Stay in the know while you're on the go on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class coming up on Saturday, May 10th. You can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. If you own a gun, you have a gun at home for self-defense, and specifically if you carry a gun, this is the information you need to stay on the right side of the law. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there. You can register right online, as I mentioned. It's going to be at Indy Arms there on May 10th, 2550 East 55th Street on the east side of northeast side, conveniently located in Indianapolis. Register right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Recent talk about rising interest rates and economic uncertainty may have you wondering if now is the right time to sell your home. Will I get the price I need? Will it take too long? The good news, you don't have to figure this out by yourself. There is a friendly, no-pressure, experienced agent who eats and sleeps Indianapolis real estate. Call my agent, Mark Dietel. Maybe you want a guaranteed, no-hassle home sale, but don't want to give up hard-earned equity to do it. Mark Dietel's the only real estate expert I trust and recommend with the sale of my home. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed-upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. Greg and Franklin said this: my tenant moved out of my investment property and I was ready to sell. I heard about Mark on the radio and everything they say is true. In 15 days on the market, I had a cash offer I wanted on the property. Selling with Mark Dietel was fast, easy, and profitable. Call the local Indianapolis agent I trust and recommend, and the agent who guarantees your home sold or he'll buy it. Call Mark Dietel at 317-755-4232 for all the details, or go online to markdietel.com. That's Mark Dietel, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com.
The 66th Annual O'Reilly Auto Parts World of Wheels Custom Car Show, March 28th through 30th, Indiana State Fairgrounds. Discount tickets exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. See America's finest hot rods, customs, trucks, motorcycles. The cars are the stars. All weekend. The O'Reilly Auto Parts World of Wheels Custom Car Show, March 28th through 30th, Indiana State Fairgrounds. Purchase discount tickets exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts stores.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey folks, Scott Wilson here from Wilson Farm Market. Even in winter, we're bringing you the best in farm fresh flavors. Stop in for our fresh salad bar, hot and crispy wing bar, and a cheese selection that is second to none. Got a sweet tooth? Our homemade pies, creamy fudge, and old-fashioned candy will hit the spot. Come see us on US 31 just north of Carmel. We're open every day 9 to 6. At Wilson Farm Market, we're all about fresh, local, and delicious. See you soon.
Never miss your favorite shows on WIBC. Get your content to go. Would you like fries with that? Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, Tony Kennett, The Gun Guy, Home and Garden. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment on this week's edition of the Gun Guy Show. IHSAA basketball coming up here at the top of the hour, which is cool. And I know our listeners love that as well. You know, this idea that we shouldn't ever worry about registration. We shouldn't worry about the government tracking us because, well, the ATF already knows everything that you own anyway. And oh, by the way, there's this ridiculous joke, and this came up today. And listen, I'm not picking on anybody in particular on social media, but I'll tell you a joke that I'm really damn sick of seeing, and it's been around for years and years and years, and I'm so sick of hearing it. People talk about, there'll be some discussion on social media of firearms, and there's always some person that comes on there and says, oh, well, I had several guns before I lost them all in a tragic boating accident. And for some reason, people, think that's funny. And I get it. It's I'm wink denying that I own any firearms so that I don't get any scrutiny from the government over owning firearms. Well, it irritates me for this reason, which is that it seems to concede that if the government knows you own firearms, then the government has, at least currently, the ability to come and hassle you over that. Now, listen, does the ATF attempt that left and right? Of course they do. But part of what I do for a living is to stand between the government and law-abiding gun owners. And listen, am I ever going to say, oh, well, I lost all my guns in a tragic boating accident? Well, of course not. Because I proudly own every firearm I own, and no one's going to take my firearms away from me. Period. End of story. Now, that assumes I don't become a prohibited possessor at some point, but I sure as hell don't plan on committing any felonies anytime soon. And of all the other categories of prohibited possessors, don't plan on falling into those either. That being so, I'm not relinquishing my firearms. I'm right up there with, remember the old Charlton Heston, as then president of NRA, pry it from my cold, dead hands. That's where I am. I would much rather be talking about pry it from my cold, dead hands than doing this wink, nod, joke. I lost all my guns in a tragic boating accident. No, I proudly own my firearms. I will own them throughout my lifetime. I will pass them on to my children. And no one's taking my damn firearms away from me. That's how I feel about that. That's why I hate that damn joke. So I may be a little overly worked up about that. That's it for this week's Gun Guy Show. Hope you'd enjoyed it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
For the deal that can't be beat, you got to get over to Andy Moore Ford. Start the spring strong with a new Andy Moore Ford. You can elevate that journey of yours with a new 2024 Ford Expedition Platinum. You could save over $15,000 off MSRP. The high-output 3.5-liter EcoBoost, up to 400 horsepower, commanding performance. I'm driving one. It's fantastic. And if you need something just a little smaller but could still do all the hauling, the new 2024 Ford Edge SE. Save over $6,500 off MSRP and get more to your door. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver directly to you. Andy Moore Ford has got the entire selection. And if you're looking to sell or trade your current vehicle, Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy theirs. Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford. That's MOHR. I love Andy. AndyMooreFord.com.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through May 4th, new customers can get started with 300 megabit internet and Security Edge for $69 a month for 24 months. And ask how to get free installation on qualifying bundles. Plus, find out how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra. After 24 months, regular rates apply.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Blood, sweat, tears. At Bill Estes, we know it takes hard work and years of doing the right thing to build a business people can depend on. That's why we don't make empty promises and expect your trust. Estes earns it. From Ford F-150s and Toyota Tacomas to Ram 1500s and Chevy Silverados, we have the trucks you'll love at prices you can believe in. But don't just take our word for it. Your trust means something. Estes earns it. BillEstes.com.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC, WIBC HD1, Indianapolis.
Welcome to the 2025 Indiana High School Athletic Association Boys Basketball State Finals, presented by the Indiana Pacers and Indiana Fever on the IHSAA Champions Radio Network. This is your IHSAA. Today's broadcast is brought to you by Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, presenting sponsor of the IHSAA Champions Network. Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, stop knocking on wood. Ivy Tech Community College, presenting partner of the IHSAA. Learn more about higher education without the high price at ivytech.edu. Wilson Sporting Goods, official ball of the IHSAA. Forte Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the official sports medicine provider of the IHSAA. By Connecticut, life is better with Connecticut Water. Sharp Business Systems Indiana, saluting great athletes and even better students. Dellon Automotive, experience the Dellon difference. And by the Indiana Pacers and Indiana Fever, proud presenting sponsor of the 115th annual IHSAA Boys Basketball State Tournament. This is Indiana's game. We are Indiana's teams.
Well, the morning